When I first stepped into the house on Willow Lane, the air was heavy, like it had been waiting for me. The real estate agent, a cheerful woman with too much perfume, kept chattering about the charm of older homes, while my eyes wandered across the cracked crown molding, the faded wallpaper, and the wide windows that faced the neighbor's property. It was perfect, or so I told myself. After the divorce, I wanted distance from everything familiar. This place was 2 towns over, cheap enough for me to afford a loan, and came with a small, overgrown garden I could imagine turning into something beautiful. I signed the papers that day. On my first night, I sat in the living room with a cup of tea, boxes still stacked around me. My cat, Olive, paced nervously, tail twitching. Every so often she would stop and stare at the far wall, the one dividing my living room from what I assumed was the empty house next door. Probably just mice, I muttered. At exactly 11:14 p.m., there came 3 knocks. Not on my door, on that wall. Low, measured, froze. The house next door had been empty for years, according to the realtor. No lights, no car in the driveway, no signs of life. I pressed my ear to the wall. Nothing. Just the hum of my own breath. Olive hissed low and long. The knocks came again the next night, at the exact same time. I decided it had to be plumbing, old pipes settling. But deep down I didn't believe that. The sound was too deliberate, like someone tapping with the tips of their fingers. On the 3rd night I decided to wait for it. I sat in the dark, tea untouched, and stared at the wall. The knocks came, 3 slow, and this time they were followed by a whisper. It was so faint I almost convinced myself I imagined it, but Olive's sudden scramble out of the room told me she'd heard it too. I leaned in. "Come back." The words were breathy, like someone speaking directly into the wall from the other side. Over the following week, the noises grew bolder. Knocks, scratches, faint dragging sounds that seemed to move from the wall toward the floorboards beneath me. I started hearing footsteps upstairs at night. Steady pacing. I don't keep anything in the upstairs guest room, so I avoided going in there. One night, I woke at 3:02 a.m. to the sound of something heavy being dropped in the hall outside my bedroom. My heart pounded as I reached for my phone, but when I opened the door, the hall was empty. The air, though, was ice cold. And that's when I saw it, the shadow. It wasn't cast by anything I could see. It stood at the end of the hall, the vague outline of a tall figure with shoulders that seemed unnaturally hunched. I blinked and it was gone. 2 weeks in, I had my first undeniable contact. I was unpacking dishes in the kitchen when the back door swung open. The night air rushed in, and with it came the sound of whispering, directly into my ear, though no one was there. "Don't leave again." The voice was masculine, low, and filled with something like grief. I slammed the door shut and locked it, every hair on my body standing on end. That's when I realized the sound hadn't come from behind me, but from the wall itself. And then the wall moved. Just for a second, like the plaster inhaled and exhaled. I couldn't live like this without answers. At the local library, I dug into old property records. The house had belonged to a man named Leonard Hale in the 1970s. He'd been a mason, unmarried, and had lived there with his younger sister until she disappeared in 1974. Her name was Margaret. No charges were ever filed, but neighbors told police Leonard had grown agitated after her disappearance, seen talking to himself, keeping her bedroom untouched. He died in the house in 1981. Suicide by hanging. The detail that stopped me cold was the location. The beam he used was in the upstairs guest room, the one I'd been avoiding. I didn't want to go in, but the noises kept pulling me toward it. One night, fed up with feeling hunted in my own home, I went upstairs with my phone flashlight. The door creaked open to reveal a stale, dusty room. The wallpaper was peeling, and in the center of the ceiling, a faint discoloration marked where the beam had been. The temperature dropped instantly. My breath clouded the air. From the far corner I heard movement, the faint scrape of something across the floor. The beam above groaned like wood under strain. And then a voice right behind me. "She's not you." I spun around, but there was nothing there. The next night, I was woken by a crushing weight on my chest. My arms were pinned, my breath shallow. In the darkness above me, a shadow leaned close enough that I could see the faint outline of a twisted face. His breath was cold against my cheek. "Stay," he whispered. I don't know how I moved, but somehow I rolled free, falling to the floor. The figure was gone, but the imprint of pressure remained in my ribs. That was the night I started sleeping with the lights on. It all came to a head 3 nights later. At 11:14 p.m., the knocking started, louder than before, shaking the wall. Olive bolted upstairs, yowling. I chased after her, only to find her frozen in the doorway of the guest room, staring at the beam. Hanging from it was a shadow. It didn't sway, didn't move, but I could feel its gaze. "Margaret," I whispered, though I don't know why. The shadow twitched, then dropped. I screamed and ran, grabbing Olive and bolting out the front door. I didn't stop until I was in my car, engine running, heart hammering. I never slept there again. I hired movers to pack my things during the day, when the house felt less alive. The last thing I saw before locking the door for the final time was the wall in the living room. A crack had appeared along the plaster, and in faint, jagged letters, something had been scratched. "Don't leave again." I did, and I never went back.